As Ari mentioned in the previous video in this series, he didn't think the transmission was savable, and I don't think it is either. I mean, I've seen this happen before where these transmissions will just kick out of gear. It's one thing if it's just slipping a little bit or if it's clunking when it shifts. Maybe it doesn't shift gear. Sometimes it can be a vacuum issue or a modulator issue or even a valve body. And all of those type of issues can be fixed without great expense. But when you're talking about internal transmission failure, you're talking about taking the transmission out, either having it rebuilt, get a rebuilt unit, or find a good used one. But you know, I just had to check. I wanted to make sure, and there's a couple of tests I do to kind of confirm my suspicions when we're talking about transmission failure. I went ahead and looked around that transmission. You know, there was a really bad fluid leak, and it was just dripping down that right side of the transmission, and it looks like it's coming right out of that O-ring of the fill tube. And it was bad enough. Look here at the floor. It left this much of a puddle of transmission fluid on the floor overnight here in my shop. So my hunch is that this transmission probably ran low on fluid at some time. You know, you saw the earlier video where somebody had jerry-rigged those hoses for the oil cooler lines. Then you have leaks, there's other things. It doesn't take much. You run low on fluid, you can ruin one of these transmissions very quickly. But here are the tests. I've taken the pan off. The tests include a fluid smell test, number 1, a fluid visual test, number 2, that's how does the fluid itself look, and then a bottom of the pan crud test, or metal particle inspection, if you could say that. Well, when I took the transmission out, I could smell a little bit of a burnt smell. That's a bad sign. That's usually a sign that the clutch packs are wearing and producing excess heat in the transmission. It wasn't real bad. I've smelt these transmission fluids where they almost knock you over. And so when I'm talking burnt smell, you'll know it when you smell it, okay? If it smells kind of sweet and it doesn't kind of, oh, like that, then, you know, at least from a smell standpoint, the transmission fluid's probably okay. But in this one, this fluid came out very pinkish, very pinkish. And in fact, it looks like it has a lot of air mixed in the fluid. So, and we just drove this, you know, a day ago. So this transmission fluid has been foaming, and that's not a good sign. The other thing is, the third test, of course, is looking at the bottom of the pan. I'll tip the pan up here, and you can see if I rub my hands in here, I don't see any large metal particles, but I see a lot of black sludge, which indicates either the transmission has been not serviced properly or something's going wrong internally in this transmission, and it's showing signs of failure, which we already know it has. So, you know, I'm not going to do any more to this transmission. I've just seen this so many times that it is an internal problem, and once you start talking internal, trying to take the transmission, but this is not a normal DIY job, you know, to get in there and start taking the transmission apart to find out what's wrong. It's better just to either, you know, find a replacement and just let this one go bye-bye. And in this case, I think we're going to let the whole car go bye-bye. That's Ari's decision. He's already discussed that with you, but when we're considering all the issues on this car, you know, he mentioned these 3 points, and I tell people all the time, when you're looking for a used car, you have 3 major areas. You have exterior, interior, and mechanical. Try to find a car that only has problems with one area. Just one, okay? Then you can deal with that. But this car has problems in all 3 areas. So I do not believe, nor does Ari believe, that it's worth fixing. But all is not lost, okay? In the next video, we're going to see if this engine is savable. There's some tests we can put it through to determine whether the engine is savable or whether we should just let that go to the crusher. Also, so stay tuned for the next part in this series.